Jeff Bezos often talked about decisions as two-way doors, meaning most decisions are reversible and you can adjust as you go. He once wrote that if you are good at course correcting, you don't have to wait for perfect certainty. Makes sense, doesn't it? You don't need complete information to start. Clarity comes after you move, not before. You decide, you learn, and you adjust. If you stay with me to the end, I want to share a simple shift in thinking that can help you move forward, even when you are afraid of making the wrong financial decision. Why does this feel so hard sometimes? I mean, most of the time. It isn't confusion, is it? It feels more like that a quiet fear in the background, the fear of making a decision and then having to live with it if it turns out wrong. Almost like you can already feel the regret before anything even happens. Have you noticed that? Waiting feels safe, but it quietly shapes the life you end up living. And when it comes to money, that feeling can easily disguise itself as being responsible, or at least that's what it feels like. You tell yourself, I'm just being careful, I don't want to rush, I need more clarity. But is it always caution? Or sometimes just fear wearing a responsible face? Because waiting can feel safe while quietly keeping you exactly where you are. Most people don't stay stuck because they don't know. They stay stuck because they are waiting to feel safe. And that's very human. There is actually a reason this feels so strong. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky found that losses tend to feel about twice as painful as gains feel good. For example, losing $100 usually feels much worse than gaining $100 feels good. You can probably feel that immediately, can you? Your brain isn't trying to make you rich, it is trying to keep you safe. So when you think about making a decision, especially with money, your mind naturally zooms in on what could go wrong. What if I regret this? What if I lose? Even when part of you knows there is upside, that push and pull feels familiar, doesn't it? The tension isn't weakness, it's how we are wired. And something even subtler happens. Sometimes we are not just afraid of losing, we are afraid of how it would feel to look back and think, I should have done differently. So we pause, not because we don't care, but because we are trying to avoid a future regret. And maybe you've noticed this too. Sometimes you stay in something, a job, a decision, even an investment, not because it feels right, but because you've already put too much into it. Time, energy, effort. It feels hard to step away because it feels like losing what you've already invested. But holding on doesn't always move you forward. Sometimes it just keeps you where you are. There's a line I keep coming back to. Growth is painful. Change is painful. But nothing is as painful as staying stuck somewhere you don't belong. That tension between wanting comfort and wanting change. Take investing for example. Maybe you've told yourself, I'll start when I feel more certain. You read, think about it, wait a little longer, and each time you get close, that voice shows up. What if I get it wrong? So you pause. Not because you don't care, but because you don't want to feel that regret. And that makes sense, doesn't it? So now that we've talked about why this feels so difficult, the fear of being wrong, the pull to stay safe, let's talk about what can actually help you move forward. One idea that can really change how this feels is shifting the question you ask yourself. Instead of waiting to feel completely certain, it can help to focus on making this step smaller. Instead of asking, what's the perfect decision? What if you asked, what's a reasonable next step for me? Something that lets you learn, something that keeps you moving, because clarity often shows up after you start, not before. When people think of movement, they often imagine commitment, making the final decision. But real movement often starts with a smaller step, understanding your options first. Whether it's buying a house, making an investment, or something else. A smaller step might simply be speaking to a broker, talking to your accountant, running your numbers, or learning more. This isn't the final decision. It's a smaller step, and that's still movement. Because without taking that step, it's easy to stay stuck in the emotional picture of what could go wrong, instead of breaking things down with clarity. And as you do that, you will often find yourself getting closer and closer to the decision, but now it feels more comfortable, more grounded, and more within reach. And even after doing all of that, uncertainty doesn't completely disappear, and that's okay. You can reduce uncertainty, but you cannot eliminate it. And that's why leaving room for error matters. You don't have to get it exactly right. You can leave room for mistakes. Adjust, adapt, change direction. When you think like that, decisions feel lighter, don't they? Because being wrong isn't failure, it's information. And here is something worth sitting with. The risk isn't always making a mistake. Sometimes it's letting hesitation quietly shape your future. Because while you wait, time moves, experience doesn't grow, and opportunities quietly pass. Most mistakes can be worked through. You learn, you adjust, you recover. But time spent hesitating, that's harder to get back. Maybe the goal isn't to remove uncertainty, maybe it's simply to take steps you can live with, even if things don't go perfectly. Think about a year from now. Will you be grateful you moved, or still wondering what if? There's a line I often come back to. In the end, we only regret the chances we didn't take. Lewis Carroll. If this resonated with you, subscribe. We explore ideas like this together, and I would really like to hear, what decision have you been thinking about but haven't acted on yet?